Good morning, boys, and this is the latest video from the White House Arsenal Arms. This one is what I've been talking to you about that I've promised to show you. This is what is referred to as the TT33. Now, what the TT stands for is Toltokov. The second T is for means Tula, from the Tula Armory in Russia, and originally designed in 1933. Now, it comes with a holster, beautiful leather. This thing was never issued. I have one, Stan has one, cheap like borscht out of Russia. Now, this gun fires 7.62 by 25. Now, as an example, this is your 9mm cartridge, standard 9mm Luger, 9mm Parabellum. This is a 7.62 by 25. Now, if you notice, it's just a little bit longer. It's 9mm on the bottom. The casings are the same size on the bottom, but it is necked down to 7.62, which is the same as like your .308 caliber. The interesting thing about these particular ammo is they are armor piercing. They are illegal in the U.S., but not illegal in Canada. This buddy that fired one at 25 yards went through both sides of a 20-pound propane tank. At 20 feet, it'll go through a 1/4-inch plate steel. When you fire this round, you'll notice a big difference in it, as opposed to a pistol that has a thump. This has a crack to it, much like a rifle. A 9mm fires out at between 800 and 900 feet per second. The Toltokov's ammo fires out at 1,600 feet per second. It is very supersonic, and it actually sounds much more like a rifle. Now, this is a very interesting weapon. From the height of the Cold War, this has never been issued. Out of all of them, of the line that was made, was 1,700,000 of these were made. This particular serial number, interestingly enough, this is nice, is 238. That's how way back this one was, and is specifically stamped with the serial number. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not. And it's never been fired, as of yet anyways. Comes with the mag release, which is up here. It's supposed to have came with 2 magazines. We only got 1. And in the holster, there's a spot where that second magazine would ride. In the movie Red Heat with John Belushi's brother, Jim Belushi, and Arnold Schwarzenegger, where they're sitting in the vehicle and they're talking, and Jim Belushi mentions the 44 Magnum as the big boy in the block, and Arnold says 7.62 Toltokov, most powerful handgun in the world. He's referring to this weapon right here. Standard issue for all officers in the Russian army. They were made famous, depending on how you look at it, by the KGB. Their problem is they did fire armor-piercing ammo, and when they shot you, it tended to make a nice little neat hole, and sometimes people still ran away. Locks back on the last round. As you note, it's a little bit smaller than a 9mm if you make the comparison. And as we had talked about, if you look back on the video of the Browning 1903, 1907 series, of what I call which is made by Husqvarna, this is the gun that they cheated off of, okay, or that cheated off them. It has what was referred to as the underbarrel, which Browning made or Husqvarna made, which was made by Browning, and then later carried on by the Colt 1911. All the interior markings, interior functionality of this entire weapon is based on that Husqvarna, which you've seen in the other video. One difference that they did make is it's not hammerless, but this hammer is almost completely concealed. Now, the reason they did that is because one of the very first things that they did with this weapon is they issued it to tank commanders, and a bulging out or protruding hammer tended to get caught on the tank when they had to get in and out in a hurry, especially if the tank was on fire. People tend to want to do that. It comes apart differently, though, than any other gun that looks like this. Usually you use the magazine, and you use the lip on that magazine, and you pull this pin backwards, the cotter pin back off of this pin. Then it comes apart by taking the slide off, and then take the front off, as opposed to all the other guns that look like it. This one, maybe it's because it's Russian, they had to do it backwards. Still very functional, and it works. Comes with a spot for the lanyard, which, by the way, is hanging right here off of the holster. Now, whether or not you're going to be able to see it in the video, I don't know, but that is the Russian star, and on the star is actually the engraving CCCP. But, of course, my Russian is not as good as it used to be. In English, we call it USSR, United Soviet Socialist Republic. But in Russia, it's CCCP. It weighs probably no more than the Husky. It's a nice, lightweight weapon. Like I said, I haven't fired it yet, but it feels very smooth. It was covered in what they call posmetalic, which is a military-grade, Russian again, military-grade lubricant. And what they did before they stored these things, and this, bear in mind, this one has been stored since 1938, was they would just dip it in that stuff. Literally, it's under the grips, it's in the mags, was everywhere. And guaranteed not to rust. That's one thing I got to give it. Other than maybe some shipping marks, which is minuscule, this thing is brand new. Only 60 years old, brand new. It doesn't have any safety mechanism on it. There's no safety latch on the stock, and there is no safety on the side. So it's either it's cocked or it isn't cocked, as far as that's concerned. If you pull the hammer halfway back, nothing will happen. You can't cock the weapon, you can't fire the weapon. But that, if any of these that were imported to the United States, had to be drilled and put in a thumb safety on them. That was not acceptable in the U.S. Of course, neither is armor-piercing ammo. In Canada, we got away with that, despite our stringent laws. Now, the one that I was with on the range, it really doesn't kick any more than a 9mm. It has a very distinctive sound, much like the AK-47 or the Koreshnikov. Has a very distinctive sound compared to an M16. This has a very distinctive sound compared to a 9mm, be it a Glock or a Browning. It's a very high-pitched snap on this, as opposed to a lower-pitched thump or a thud by the concussion. The other thing is the Ruski. This was, has nothing to do with the gun as per se, but this was actual issue to the KGB, the secret Russian police. The badges are made of tin, just like the German ones are, instead of brass. Brand new. Pull the string, and the ear flaps fall down over your ears. Now, this is exactly what was issued during the siege in Stalingrad. Now, what other countries were doing, they were using leather, or they were using hides or furs for hats. They had synthetic fur, which made them very cheap to make. And one of the prologic comments of the Russian soldiers is they referred to this as fish fur, because there was no animal in the world that had fur like this. So, TT33 from the Tula Armory, Potlikov, if it's spelt with a V, pronounced with an F. Beautiful weapon. I have one. Stan has one. Very cheap out of Mother Russia. Same with the ammo. Military surplus. Also comes from Russia. Armor piercing. Holds 8 rounds in the magazine. and I'm looking forward to firing this. This is a piece of cultural history of the Cold War.